So welcome everybody to this latest video 162 Maths, and in this video we'll be going over the GCSE Maths Foundation Practice Paper 2023 Set 3 Paper 2, which is a calculator paper. Now as always I'll include a copy of the question breakdown so you can see which question refers to which topic. So let's get started on this Practice Paper 2023 Foundation Set 3 Paper 2, which is a calculator paper. So looking at question 1, it says write down one cube number that is less than 10. So the couple of choices you can have here, you could either have 1 or 8, but remember that you only need to write 1 down, so just write one of those two numbers. Question 2a says complete the sentence, the diameter is double the length of A, and the correct answer is the radius, spelled correctly. And question 2b says write down the name of this shape, and it is a kite. Then for question 3, we want to do some negative addition. So here we've got a plus and a minus in the middle, so they turn into a minus. So it's minus 2, minus 3, which is negative 5. Moving on to question 4, it says write down a suitable unit for the mass of an apple. So I would probably go for a gram. Don't know why I've started with an M there, so let's just get rid of that. And then for question 5a, it says 119 has 2 digits the same. Write down the next whole number with 2 digits the same. Now the correct answer you should have there is going to be 121. Then for question b, it says 987 has all digits different. Write down the next whole number where all the digits are different, in which the correct answer you should have there is going to be 1023. Question 6 says write down the direction that is 3/4 turned clockwise from north. So we are facing this direction here, and that is going to be west. Moving on to question 7, it says simplify. We've got 3a plus a, which is 4a, and then b times c, which is bc. Then for question 7c, it says expand. So we want to do 2 times d, which is 2d, plus 2 times positive 3, which is positive 6. Then for 7d, it says factorise. We want to take the highest common factor of 5 and 10, which is going to be 5. And so we've got 5x plus 2 inside the brackets. Then for question 8, it says Sid and Nancy each have the same pocket money. Sid spends half of his and he has £2.50 left. Nancy spends 30% of hers. How much does Nancy have left? So first things first, what we want to do is we want to work out how much spending money they had. So the spending money that they had was going to be, well, if Sid spends half of his and half is £2.50, well, it's going to be 2 times 2.5, which is £5. So all in all, they had £5. So Nancy has £5. Now she spends 30%, so 30% of £5, well that's going to be, well 10% is 50 pence, so therefore 30% is going to be £1.50. So then it's going to be £1.50. So then to work out how much does Nancy have left, well it's going to be £5 minus £1.50, which gives us an answer of £3.50. Then moving on to question 9, it says here is a list of numbers, and the question says work out the mean value. So what we want to do here is first of all count how many numbers there are, in which there are 6 numbers. We then need to order those numbers, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 and 9. And then we want the number in the middle. Now the number in the middle is going to be halfway between 3 and 4, which is 3.5, or you can write it as 3.5. Then moving on to question 10, it says that here is a bank statement with 3 missing values, and it wants us to complete the bank statement. So for this box here, what we need to do is we need to work out the difference between the two balances. So for this box here, we're going to do 1324.83 minus £37.60. And that should give me a total of 1287.23. Then for this box here, what we want to do is we want to, now debit means take away, so we're going to do 1324.83 minus 150, And if I type that into my calculator, I should end up with an answer of 1174.83. And then finally, for this box here, I'm going to take away 141.89 from the previous balance. So that's going to be 1174.83 minus 141.89. And that should give you an answer of 1032.94. Moving on to question 11, it says Joe sold 96 candles. 1/4 of the candles were small, the rest were large. Joe made a profit of £5.50 on each small candle, and she makes twice as much profit on each large candle. And the question is asking us to work out her total profit. So for this, what we need to do first is basically work out how many of the candles were small. So 1/4 of 96, I'm going to do 96 divided by 4 multiplied by 1, which equals 24 small candles. Now from this I can then work out how many large candles they were. So then the large is going to be 96 minus 24, which equals 72. Now from this I can then work out how much profit they made. So the small candle profit is going to be £5.50 multiplied by the quantity, which is 24, and that comes up to a total of £132. Now the next one then says, well, they're making double the amount of profit on the large candle. So large candle profit is going to be £5.50 times 2, which is £11 per candle. So then for the large candle profit, well, that's going to be £11 multiplied by 72, which comes up to a grand total of 792. Then the total profit is going to be simply adding those two calculations together. So it's going to be 132 plus 792, and that comes up to a total of £924. Question 12 says increase 200 by 17%. Well, if we start with 100%, so 100% plus 17% is 117%, and that as a decimal is 1.17. So if I then do 200 multiplied by 1.17, I get an answer of 234. And all the alternative, you could work out 10%, work out 7%, add them together, and then add it to 200. Moving on to question 13, it says write down a whole number where x is between 3 and 8. So we're going to write down all the whole numbers. So, or actually, whole number values, yeah, all of them. So we're going to write 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. For question 14, it says draw two straight lines inside a rectangle to split it into one trapezium and two right angles, and it's got practice. Now there are loads of different answers you can have, but you just need to make sure that you're drawing two straight lines. And let me actually draw two straight lines rather than not. So if I draw any two straight lines in this rectangle, and what I want is to see two triangles and a trapezium. So hopefully you know what each of those shapes look like. And yeah, like I said, there are loads of different ways you can do it. I'm probably just going for the one that's most common, and obviously different rotations, different reflections could give you the same answer. Moving on to question 15, it says Jan is trying to work out the size of angle X. He assumes that ABC is a straight line. What answer should he get? So for this then, all we need to then do is then work out this angle here. So work out the angle DBC. So that's going to be 80. So then to work out angle X, so X is going to be 180 minus 80 minus 40, and that gives me an answer of 60 degrees. Then looking at 15b, it says that in fact angle ABC is 178 degrees as shown. What effect does this have on size of angle X? So for this, if we work out what this missing angle here is going to be, then which is going to be 82 degrees, we can then work out what angle X is going to be. So X is going to be 180 minus 82 minus 40, and we get X equals 58. So as you can see, that answer is smaller than what we found in part A. So the one you want to tick is the bottom option. Moving on to question 16, it says the graph below shows a shop's daily profit over 2 weeks. And it says write down the profit on Thursday of week 1. So week 1 is represented by the dashed line, and we want to find Thursday. So it's this number here, which is 160. It then says that the total profit on Monday for the 2 weeks was 260. Which day had the highest total profit in the 2 weeks? Now, if we just work out each of the days, so we've got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read off the values off the diagram of what the profit was for each day. So it says that the total profit on Monday was 260. For Tuesday, it's 140 plus 172, which is 312. For Wednesday, the two numbers were 120 and 130, which is 250. For Thursday, it is 124, 162, which is 286. For Friday, it's 140 and 200, which is 340. And for Saturday, it's 172 and 180, with a total of 351. So which is the day which had the highest total profit in those 2 weeks? Well, it's going to be Saturday. Then moving on to question 16c, it says the shop is closed on Sunday. The manager decides to close the shop on one other day each week. Use the graph to decide which day she should close. Give a reason for your answer. Now there's 2 possible answers you can give. So you can either say Wednesday, and the reason for that is you could say that it's the lowest total profit was made. Or another option you could say is you could say Monday, in which that the reason for Monday is that it's the lowest profit day, or it had the lowest profit day. And so any of those would be absolutely fine. Now question 16d says Ruby says about the graph that Friday week 1 is 6 large squares high and Friday week 2 is 3 large squares high. So the profit on Friday week 1 is double the Friday week 2. Is she correct? Well, if we go back to our calculation from 16b and we look at Friday's results, that we can see that we've got 140 and 20. So here, if I write that down, so in week 1 Friday profit was, and if I just go back up to the graph, it was 200, and in week 2 the profit was and if we go back to the graph, it was 140. So 140 is not double of 200. So is she correct? No. Moving on to question 17, it says here is a shape. A method to estimate the area of the shape below is to put the shape into a rectangle grid of dots. Write down the number of dots in the shape as a fraction of the total number of dots. Work out this fraction of the area and then we can work it out. So the question then says use this method to estimate the area of the shape. So looking at the number of dots inside the little bubble thing is we've got a total of 3 plus 4 plus 4 plus 3 plus 2 gives us a total of 16. So we've got 16 out of and a total of 4 by 5, which is 20. So then if I then multiply that by 6 times 7.5, so that's basically going to be 4/5 of 6 times 7.5, and let me just get rid of that of, and multiply that by 6 times 7.5, and I type that all into my calculator. I should have the answer of 36. It then says, how could you improve this method to give a more reliable answer? So for this, there's a couple of different answers you could give, but I would say the most common answer is going to be to have smaller spaced dots. In other words, or more dots. So any of those would be absolutely fine. Then moving on to question 18, it says the speed of the International Space Station is 27,576 kilometers per hour. The station travels at 42,600 kilometers in one orbit. Work out the full orbits the station does in one day. So for this, we want to take the speed and we want to multiply that by the number of hours, the time in one day in hours. So we're going to multiply that by 24, in which the answer I get is 661,824. Now that basically tells us how many kilometers it is traveling in 1 hour. So that's kilometers. So then what we then want to do is we want to divide that by 42,600 to say how many orbits there are. And if I type that all into my calculator, I get an answer of 15.535777465. And then we want to round this number down because we want full orbits, so it's going to be 15. Question 18b says convert 27,576 kilometers per hour into meters per second. So if I write down the units of this, that's kilometers, divided by 1 hour, then what I want to do is I want to convert kilometers into meters. So I multiply that by 1,000. So that's going to be 27576,000, and that's in meters. And then I want to convert 1 hour into minutes. Well, if I divide it into, in seconds. So if I divide by 60 to get minutes, and then divide by another 60 to get seconds. So that's going to be 60 times 60 times 60. So that's going to be 360 seconds in 1 hour. So then, actually missed off a 0 there. So it's 3,000. I was going to say that's a bit short. And then if I then do 27576,000 divided by 3,600, I should have the correct answer of 7660. Moving on to question 19, it says Croc is simplifying 6n to the power of 5 times 2n to the power of 4. Identify the two mistakes that he has made. Well, one of the mistakes is that 6 times 2 is not 8. It is actually, it's 12. And n to the power of 5 times n to the power of 4 is not n to the power of 20. It's n to the power of 9. So in other words, the correct answer, which I don't think you need to write, is 12n to the power of 9. Then moving on to question 20a, we want to expand and simplify. So using our loops, we get x squared minus 3x plus 6x minus 18. And then collecting the like terms of the x's, we get x squared plus 3x minus 18. Then for question 20b, we want to solve this. So all we need to do is just make each bracket equal to 0. So let me just try that again. So we've got x minus 9 equals 0, so x equals 9, and x plus 4 equals 0, so x equals minus 4. So you just need to write 9 and minus 4 in the two spaces, and you can write those numbers in any order. Moving on to question 21, it says write 225 as a product of their prime. So you can either use your calculator or you can use a factor tree, in which I've got 5 and 45, in which then what we've then got is 5 is prime, so I can put a circle around that, don't know why I put a line there. And then for 45 I've got 9 and 5, 5's prime, then with 9 I've got 3 and 3, so then what I've then got is 3 squared times 5 squared, or what I could write is 3 times 3 times 5 times 5. For question 22, it says the volume of sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed. A steel sphere has a radius of 3 as shown. Work out the volume. Well, for that, all I need to do is just substitute r equals 3. So in my calculator, I'm going to do 4/3 times pi times 3, in which I should have the answer of 36 pi, or I can write it as a decimal, which is 113.1, and that's been rounded to 1 decimal place. Then for density of the steel is 5.2 grams per centimetre cubed. Work out the mass of the volume of the sphere. So here the formula for density is mass over volume. So then the formula for mass is going to be density times the volume. Now I just want to check to make sure that the units are the same, which they are. So it's just going to be 5.2 multiplied by your answer in part A, which if I type that into my calculator, I either get 936 divided by 5 pi, or I get a decimal answer of 588.1, and that's to 1 decimal place. Moving on to question 23, it says Daniel invests 2,500 for 3 years. The compound interest rate is 2.9% per year. Which calculation works out the total value after 3 years? Circle your answer. Well, the correct answer is going to be the bottom right hand corner. Then says Anna invests 2,500 for 3 years at an interest rate is 3.5% for the first year and then 2.3% for the following years. Whose investment is worth more after 3 years? Well, if I work out Daniel's, well, that's going to be 2,500 multiplied by 1.029 to the power of 3. And if I type that into my calculator, I get 2723.87. Then if I work out Anna's, well, that's going to be 2,500 for the to start with. I then multiply that with a 3.5% increase, and then I multiply it by a 2.3% for 2 years. So if I type that all into my calculator, I get an answer of 2707.89. And which one is more? It's going to be Daniel. Then moving on to question 24, it says the angles in triangle A are in the ratio of 1 to 2 to 5. The angles in the triangle of B are in the ratio of 3 to 4 to 5. Anisha says that the n number in each ratio is 5, so the biggest angle in each triangle must be equal. Is she correct? And yes or no. So let's first of all work out what the angles are going to be. So for this one, I need to share 180 degrees by 1 to 2 to 5. So for this, I can then work out what the angles are. So I'm going to do 180 divided by 8, because there are 8 parts. And if I type that into my calculator, 180 divided by 8 is 22.5. So the biggest angle is going to be 22.5 multiplied by 5, which is 112.5 degrees, and that's for triangle A. Then for B, I'm going to do 180 divided by 12 parts, so 180 divided by 12, which is 15, and then do 5 times 15, which is 75. So for B, the biggest angle equals 75 degrees. So therefore, she is not correct. Then moving on to question 25, it says here is a straight line graph. Work out the equation of the line. Well, the line crosses the y-axis at 1. So it's going to be, so using y equals mx plus c, we know that c is going to equal positive 1. So then what I then need to do is work out the gradient. So if I pick and draw my triangle, I've got a height of 2 and 1. So here m equals 2 divided by 1, which is 2. So m equals 2. So then substituting each of those into y equals mx plus c, we get y equals 2x plus 1. Then for question 25b, it says work out the coordinates of the y-intercept of the line that is parallel to the line A and passes through to 2. So for this, again, there's a couple of ways in which we can do this. So one, I'll probably say is the common way, is to actually plot 2, 2, which is here, there, and we know it's going to be parallel, so we know it's going to have a gradient of 2. So it's going to be going through here, and then you can try and visualize where that point is going to be. Well, it's 3 away from 2 away from the actual line. So 1, 2, 3. So it's going to be 3 up from there. So that's going to be at -2. So here the gradient is going to be, or the equation of the line is going to be y equals 2x minus 2. Then, so that means then the y ordinate is going to cross at 0, -2. Then moving on to our last question, it says that a 10k run took place. Information about the times achieved by women are in the table, and it says the mean time achieved by men was 81 minutes. Compare the mean times. So we want to work out the mean from this group data. So here the midpoint is going to be 55, 70, and 90. Then we need to work out fx columns. So if I multiply those numbers out, I get 55, 420, and 1170. I then work out the total, which is 1645. So then the mean for the women is going to be 1645 divided by 20, which comes up to 82.25, and that's in minutes. So I then want to compare the two times. So I'm comparing 82.25 to 81. So here on average, oh, don't know what letter that is. So then I'd write on average, men were quicker than women. And the reason for that is because 81 is smaller than 82.25. And there we go.